Welcome to Fairfield Public Access Television. We are starting a new program in Fairfield that will start and view every Friday night, and that is going to be RAGBRAI events and updates, Fairfield 25th on the 25th. Our mission statement for the RAGBRAI is, showing Fairfield's pride to the ride. You picked a great place to celebrate your 25th anniversary RAGBRAI. And with me today for our first show is Beth Nelson, who is a co-chair, and Deb Carlson, who is hospitality chair, and I am publicity. So tell me, Bev, exactly how did this whole thing come about?
Well, how it all started was a couple years ago, Fairfield sent an application for RAGBRAI to come to Fairfield through the Chamber of Commerce. Pat Doyle kept thinking it was going to come during his year as president of the Chamber. Didn't happen. One day we got a call first thing in the morning at the Chamber and said, RAGBRAI will be in town at your office at like 11 o'clock. So immediately the girls at the Chamber got on the phone and started calling people. RAGBRAI officials came and asked if Fairfield would be interested in hosting an overnight stay on Friday, July 25th. And the consensus with the city officials and everyone was yes. You know, communities stand in line, have lists even, wanting to be a host town. So from then the ball started rolling.
Now this was earlier this year, and RAGBRAI works through the Chambers of Commerce, and this was right after Mike Brewer had resigned. So I'm sure everyone thought, oh boy, we have our hands full.
Yes, exactly. Jeff Wilson, who's president of the Chamber this year, I think had a slight panic attack about, oh no, I'm going to have this big event going on too. So he immediately got on the phone and started contacting, asking people to chair. And I guess I was the first one that said yes. And then shortly after that, Pat Doyle said he would help, and Joe Carr joined on. We thought 3 heads were much better than 1 or 2, so it's been working out very well.
And they definitely have been working hard and meeting, lots of meetings in town, out of town, all around town.
That's right. How it's kind of organized is RAGBRAI sends us this book, and we had several copies of this book given to each of us co-chairs and a few people in the chamber to begin with. And RAGBRAI, this is their 25th year, and so this is 24 years worth of information in this book. And it's very well divided down, it's very well organized, and it just does, it tells you from start to ending what to expect, how to do things. I mean, it goes through every subcommittee chairperson's responsibilities, the responsibility of the town, what riders are looking for when they come to town. It is excellent, and they're continually updating it to each year on things that happen and that they should have foreseen or have known and will want other towns to know. And another great thing in the book is there's all the names and addresses of towns from last year and who we can contact from that town to ask them information like, how many people did you end up serving and what kind of food did best, and all these little detailed things to make it comfortable.
Things to do and things not to do.
Exactly. And so we have been in contact with several of the towns from last year. Recently, I think it's just a couple weeks ago, several people from Fairfield went to Des Moines and sat down with an all-day meeting with each committee person from some town last year and could ask really specific questions and also hear the other towns that are on the route this year and what kind of concerns they have, because we share a lot of the same concerns.
Right. Now, Deb, you were one of the people that went to the Des Moines meeting.
Yes, Pat Doyle and Joe Carr and I went, and it was so informative because it was interesting to listen to the people from last year talk about the events that they had, for instance, and it gave us some real interesting ideas along those lines, and a lot of questions that we had were answered, that we didn't know what we were to anticipate along those lines. I did find out too that they have done this for 10 years. So it makes it a lot more organized now than it ever was.
Or talked.
The organization, not RAGBRAI, but the Des Moines Register has had the overnight towns from the prior year come and join with the other towns of this year, which has been really nice.
That is.
Another big help is Jim Green. He is a employed by the Register, and he makes a stop at every town every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks he comes to Fairfield and he
At
meets
7 in the morning.
at 7 in the morning, which is not a good time for many of us. But he does. He comes and meets with all the chair people for all the committees and the co-chairs, and that way we have real regularly somebody coming to help answer some of the questions that pop up in between. And he has lots of great stories that he tells us and keeps us informed, because this really is a big event. As co-chairs, Pat Doyle and Joe Carr and I are really excited that we get to host this, because we're talking about 10 to 12,000 riders in town, plus all their support vehicles, their families that ride along, may drive the camp or something like that. And we're anticipating over 20,000 people.
I think that is an important thing to say, is that we are excited about this, and all of our chairmen are excited, and we're getting more and more people involved.
Yes.
And we want it to be a fun, positive thing.
Yes.
It's a wonderful way to show off our community.
Yes, it really is. It really is. And another wonderful thing, which is one of the reasons I said yes to this, is that I'm getting to work with a lot of people that I don't normally work with. And when people are volunteering, they give so much of themselves, their time, their effort, their money, that whole bit. And it's wonderful getting to work one-on-one with a lot of these people. And it is. I know that many people are saying, oh, this is going to be such a problem and stuff. We know there will be problems. It's one day. And my philosophy was, how often will we have this many people come to see our community at one time? This is a very big opportunity for us.
Yes. One of the reasons I volunteered is I had such a good time working on the Sesquicentennial
Yes.
Commission last year.
We did. We did.
We all did.
Yes.
And just getting to know each other. It was a lot of fun.
It was.
Even though it's hard work, it's a lot of fun.
It definitely is. I'd like to go through some of the, give some recognition to some of my chairmen, the subcommittee chairs, because they're really working very hard on their committee. For volunteer recruitment, we have Jim Edgston and Marcia Gaines heading up that committee. And both of them are hard at work gathering names. Right now, we've got a lot of people telling us, yes, I'd like to help. And they're wondering, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? That will all come as this gets more and more organized. Anyone wanting to volunteer, please call the chamber office and we'll get your name on the committee.
There are things to do now
Right.
and ahead of time, and things to do that day.
Yes.
And probably some things to do afterwards.
Oh, definitely some things afterwards. And probably the biggest boost for volunteers will be the day of in the evening, when we need that much more help. Our budget committee is headed up by Sudie Williamson, and Sudie's just wonderful. She is a retired CPA, has lots of accounting experience, and she's just got a handle on that whole budget thing. Publicity Susan, and hospitality Deb. Our campground committee is Dean Haney, and Dean works for Park and Rec, and so he's in charge of the parks there, and this campgrounds committee just fits him just perfect.
I think it's wonderful too that each committee person has a real expertise in their field, and it's amazing. I mean, when I see some of the people, they know so much about what they're doing that if I were on that committee, I wouldn't know.
I know.
It is. Everything's going to come together because of all those people.
Exactly, in their knowledge and expertise. Information Center Sally Neff, which fits perfect too. Sally, grew up here and knows lots of people, and she's very organized, yes. And she will be asking for volunteers to help at the Information Center. And just a little bit about what the Information Center is. It will be where many of the writers will come and sign in that they're here. They will look at the information board, message board, to see if they have any messages from home or anybody they need to contact. They will be able to make phone calls from there for home. They'll pick up packets of information about where to eat and where to,
And this will be located at the middle school.
Yes, it will be located at the middle school. Many people are staying in homes, and so they can find out there, if they hadn't already, know how to get to that, they can find out how to reach that home, because we have a great big huge map that they'll be able to point out, this is how you get there. Another committee is food service, and that's Kristen Bandy. And Kristen's really doing a wonderful job on food service. She's been working very hard with the health inspector and how do we license these food vendors and many things like that, because that's a real key important area. Most of the towns are saying we need to be able to feed about 10,000 people. And that's just through the food vending service. The other people that will be here will be absorbed by restaurants.
Now that's a real tough committee. I think she's really got a lot of work to do, and she's working very hard on it.
Yes, she is.
And we'll talk about some more about that
toward the
before we
end?
get done here.
Non-food vendors is headed up by Karen Crossland. And this is a real interesting one. Anybody that is wanting to set up a stand where they're not selling food or they have something to display will all need to go through the non-food vending committee. She's had requests for rock climbing walls, somebody from out of town, people, which I think that'd be fun.
Wow.
She also has, people maybe wanting to display something or sell their wares that are not food related.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing with this committee and the food service is that we will try to get local people first. They will have top priority. I mean, if somebody here in town has a rock climbing wall that they want to set up and we have this request from somebody out of town, the local person will get it first.
It's fair.
Yes, that is. We want the monies to stay.
And RAGBRAI encourages that. to
Yes.
have things local.
They very much do. Jamie Kiken's in charge of housing, and she's got a great committee too. She has a lot of support from MUM. They're going to open up some dorms, which is going to help a lot. Not that we still don't need housing, because many people definitely want to stay in a home where they can meet the people and just chat and things like that. We are needing places for campers to set up in a driveway. If you have a large yard and want people, we can have some tents out there, maybe a few in your home. You do not have to furnish anything for your guests. We encourage that you let them take a shower there or a bath, just because that will help offset the shower areas. But you do not have to feed them or anything like that. Just give them a piece of floor, if nothing else. Hey, these people, are a lot of them used to sleeping on the ground, so. Well, another committee that is sponsored by the Des Moines Register is called Ride Right. And what this is a bicycle safety program. And they put together coloring books and all kinds of items to go into the schools and teach bicycle safety. And it was real interesting that Don Raymond, the chief of police, said, I will have one of my officers do that committee. And he says, I'll ask for volunteers, but he said, we have been wanting to put together a bicycle safety program for here in the schools. And he said, we just haven't had the vehicle to do it with. And so Julie Kinsella, one of the police officers, volunteered for this committee. And so she is going to be going to the schools, and I think she's got some helmets that they're going to draw, see who wins a helmet, and she's got some coloring books, and she's got some other literature and things, so that bicycle safety is very, very important. A few years ago on RAGBRAI, nobody wore helmets, and now practically everyone does.
I wondered about that.
Mm-hmm.
I used to ride a lot, and I never wore a helmet, and I haven't. So now I'm thinking, I wonder, am I supposed to wear a helmet?
Yeah, it's just for your own safety. Also, Ride Right program a lot of times sets up displays for when the riders come into town, some kind of a safety display. And so Julie's working on that. She's very lucky her mom lives right across from the middle school, so she has a yard to do that in already.
Okay.
Public safety is Jerry Long and Eric Schaefer. And what public safety will do is work with the police department on what streets will be blocked, find people to just stand. I mean, some of the volunteers that we need are just very simple things like standing maybe at a street intersection, so if somebody does need to go down that street, they can move the barricade. And I'm suggesting that people bring a lawn chair, and sit there and just
Sure.
enjoy meeting all the riders as they
Fun
come by.
job.
Yeah.
That could be a teenager.
Yes,
elderly
could be.
person.
Exactly. There's also other things with public safety. Jerry Long's working on if we would have bad weather. Where would we put all these people?
Right. Have to think of that.
Yes. And so those kinds of things are public safety, just that we want this to be the safest ride that we can possibly make. Law enforcement's obviously the police department. Don Raymond's working really hard on, what streets should be blocked and things like that, organizing all that. Plus his help, he's got the posse lined up and his officers, and they will be on duty for RAGBRAI pretty much 24 hours throughout that night. The Beverage Garden is another big item. Sean Samples is in charge of that. The Beverage Garden will be located downtown on the square. I believe it's going to start about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we'll stop about 11 o'clock. There's many details with that. The law is very specific on what we have to do. It has to be a double fence, no bottles, no cans, so everything's served in plastic cups, which will help clean up too. Mm-hmm. There's many rules in that, so it's just going to come together very well because it's already detailed out how that has to be set up.
They have very strict enforcements and guidelines of how to regulate who's coming.
Yes, exactly. Might as well, if you're not of age, you might as well not plan on being in the Beverage Garden because we will be IDing very closely. We do not want to set up anything for disaster, more or less. That we will be carting. There will be people all throughout the beverage garden checking to make sure that we can keep things under control, because I think that's a very important item for everybody's safety. Shuttle service is Vivian Hammis, the most organized woman that I know. She is doing a wonderful job. We have school buses, and we have the little bus, I'm drawing a blank.
Is it the seated?
I call it seated. That's not called anymore. Those buses. And Vivian has them all lined out. She's already working on routes.
Color-coded?
Color-coded routes. She will have it all lined up when we get all the food vendors in, so we know what church is going to be serving and other locations not on the square. She will line up her routes so that they stop at these locations so people can board and unboard, I guess, and she's got it lined up for her signs. And
she brought me the signs, I think, almost
oh my God, I know.
Already.
She's got it under control.
Nice.
Yes, it is. And yeah, she's just doing a great job just getting drivers lined up, and many are volunteering their services, which we definitely appreciate.
That's another job that I think senior citizens would enjoy is maybe she's going to have a card table there and stamp you as you get on the bus, and what a fun job to meet the people and be involved.
That's true. Sanitation committee. Not a real glamorous job, and I'm very thankful for Joe Stever for taking it over, but a very, very important one. When you're planning this many people, you definitely need to think about restrooms, the garbage, the cleanup afterwards, and those really important things. And Joe has this really well under control. RAGBRAI brings so many porta-potties, and we need to supplement that with about double that. So we have on order over 50 porta-potties that will be downtown area
Do they follow
tents.
the RAGBRAI route?
Yes, they do.
So they're easy to come by?
Yes, theirs do. Ours we have to get from another source.
else.
Right.
Okay.
Another thing that people may not realize is when you think about sanitation, Stever's Sanitation has many towns around our area. So they have other towns on the RAGBRAI route that they are having to service as far as garbage pickup. So Joe came up with some really good ideas on how, without having to haul dumpsters from other places, how to contract that trash. And we've been really lucky that we're gathering trash bags. We've had some donations of those. So each tent camper will receive a trash bag to dispose of their items. Kristen Bandy's going to be giving the food vending people trash bag also, just to get them started on that this is what we want.
Even simple ideas like in a residential area, setting your trash can out by the road.
Exactly.
So when they're driving by, they can put something in it.
If you have trash can available, the riders will use it. And I think everybody from town that will be participating downtown in the activities and stuff, I think it's the same way. If there's a trash can there, that you're going to use it instead of throwing it on the ground. Entertainment committee. Myron Gukin is in charge of the entertainment committee, and it's been a great outpour of locals, people wanting to entertain. He is having more scheduling problems because he has so many people, which is a great way to have it.
In Fairfield, we have so many talented people that he's just being overwhelmed with the talent that we can provide for this.
Yes.
And that's exciting. I think we'll have the best show.
I do too. I do too. And all the entertainment that he has lined up is all local. And even better, when I think about the budget part, is they've all volunteered.
That's wonderful.
Can't beat
That's
that.
even better.
He has talked about having things in the square.
Yes.
And then on the north side of the square.
Right, there'll be a stage set up there, just like when we do street dances, you know, they're on the north side in the street will be a stage, and then they'll use the gazebo. And he's also talking about a few items maybe down around the middle school, just in the late afternoon, early evening.
Where they're camped out.
Right. Medical committee. We are very fortunate that we have Brian and Kim Woods that do the ambulance service for RAGBRAI each year clear across the state, and we're really lucky that they live here in Fairfield because we can get a lot of expert advice from them. And Johnny Parker at the hospital is organizing the medical unit. We've contracted for an emergency room doctor to be here all day. You know, generally they're just here in the evenings, so there'll be somebody here all throughout the day and evening. The hospital has arranged for like a mini emergency room to come from Des Moines down. It's kind of a self-contained unit that will be set up on the corner of Fillmore and 6th Street.
I know she talked about being located with a fire hydrant, so she has water.
Yes, and electricity is there too, so pretty necessity things.
Yeah.
And also that seems like a good spot where if the ambulance is sitting there, they have several different ways to get away from that area in case they need to transport somebody. And I believe they're even lining up some golf carts, so if it's a minor injury and they need to go to the hospital, you know, sprained ankle, let's say, that they'll be able to cart them with a golf cart through all the bikers. Another really important one too is communication, because we as chair people are going to need to be talking to each other throughout the day and evening, and Glenn Tedrow from the high school has willingly taken over that, and he's lining up walkie-talkies and these kinds of things, because people don't realize that probably 70 to 80% of the riders have cellular phones.
Oh.
So the towers will all be locked up.
Already locked
Really
up.
do?
Yes,
Wow.
yes. It's the, you know, the new thing.
Yes.
So for us to be able to talk back and forth and find out what's going on at the square when we're standing at the middle school, we'll be using some kind of a walkie-talkie. The last committee for subcommittees is Electricians Committee. And Rodney Nelson with Livewire Electric and Rusty Muntz from Whitmore Electric are heading that. And I don't think either one of them knew what they were getting into.
They have their hands full,
I
too.
think they do. They're working with Iowa Electric and the city officials, because unbeknownst to me, the town square inside the park does not have a lot of service for all the vendors and items to be set up. So they are coming up with ideas on how to get more electrical service downtown.
And they also have lots of rules and regulations to
Yes.
follow in that.
Yes, they do. They do. They have. That's exactly right. And the last committee that we have an advisory board. And on that advisory board are people like the mayor, Terry Lowenberg, who is a RAGBRAI writer, and he's also a banker here in town. Jeff Wilson from the Ledger. He kind of does dual hats too, because he's also the chamber president. We have a recording secretary, Juanita and Nancy, at the chamber office. The police department, Don Raymond, and Greg Hanshaw from Park and Rec. And then Tim Kikinen and Terry Klein and Kathy Peck are all experienced with RAGBRAI. Tim being experienced because he chaired it last time they were in town, and Terry and Kathy because they're past writers. And this advisory board is just kind of a sounding board for us co-chairs, for Pat and Joe and I, and that as things come up and we think, well, should we go this way or that way, we pull that advisory board together and ask the questions and get feedback from them and direction.
And do you meet with them regularly?
Not real regularly. We'll just call a meeting as needed. As needed. So that's a little bit about the committees. Now you two have publicity and hospitality.
Right. Something with publicity that we're doing, and that's why we have the show, is we want to inform Fairfield about what's going on. And so we have lined up shows every Friday, and we have things like Kristen, Bandy, and Karen will talk about vendors. And Jim Green from the Des Moines Register, we're actually going to corner him and with the co-chairs and do a show. That should be really interesting. We're going to try and do a show with Terry Lowenberg, and he has agreed, and hopefully I might get his daughter-in-law, June, who is a good interviewer, to do this show, and it should be really interesting. We've talked about getting Kathy Peck and Kent Rice, that's the right name, right?
Yes.
About actually getting someone on a bicycle and doing a show and talking to them about the hills and going
And
up and down.
it's going to be a very hilly ride this
That's what
year.
I've heard. Chuck Offenberger will be here towards the end of May or 1st of June, and we're going to get him and do a show. We hope to get all of our committee chairmen and do shows with them and talk about their particular committee and what they're doing and the help that they need. Also in the Ledger, we've developed a theme, and that's Fairfield 25th on the 25th, because it's their 25th ride, and it will be here on July 25th. And we have this in the Ledger, this logo, and it's been running every night, and Terry Lowenberg has been providing the text, so we keep everyone enthused.
Yes.
So we have lots of ideas to go on for keeping you informed, and this is just one of them. Let's talk a little bit about the hospitality.
Okay. Our main purpose for hospitality, of course, is involving people in the community to welcome the riders And we don't want to forget also to give him a good send-off and for him to come back and see us too. So we'd really like to get as many people the day of RAGBRAI to come line the route for anywhere from Glasgow Road on in on Madison and Park
so this
Street.
is something that I think people would think about, oh boy, I'd really like to see him come in. Well, yes, we want you to.
Definitely.
We want you to come and watch.
Definitely.
And the route will be from Glasgow Road, and they'll turn onto Madison at the skating ring, and then from Madison up to Park Street, and they'll go south on Park, past the Country Club Golf Course to Fillmore Street, and then straight across on Fillmore to the middle school. So any place along there, people may, line the streets and park a block or so off. And
We have contacted the preschools. We're getting a hold of all of our preschools. We'd like to see all the young children come out. And hopefully we're getting Iowa flags, so the children can hold Iowa flags or any kind of welcome signs that they would like to make themselves. We'd really like to get the children involved too in the community along with everyone else to be a part of this so that they can also remember
We're
the fun
talking about
time.
having signs as they come into town.
Yes, there will be a banner out on Glasgow Road, and it will be along on the route, and it'll be a street banner which goes clear across the Glasgow Road, and we're getting someone to help us decorate along those lines. And we're also doing street painting, which Josie Rauscher, who works out at Chapel Studio, has come up with some great ideas. What they do is they take duct tape, which comes in great colors, and they tape the street, and then they stencil it and paint on the stenciling. So it also creates a lot of, the riders will come over this, and it'll make it a fun welcome.
And ride over it.
Yeah.
that is a neat idea.
Yeah, we will have, you and I, of course, are creating Burma Shave signs,
Yes.
which will be a lot of fun, and we're hoping a lot of people will help us with that creativity. We need lots of people that are willing
Lots
to
of sign
paint, and
painters.
yes.
I will be calling on some friends.
The more fun we'll have.
And where will you place some
Right.
of those kind of signs? The Burma.
We're going to use those along the route as they come in on Glasgow Road.
Great.
And
as they need the
also
information to notify them of certain things.
Mm-hmm. where they can get good food to eat and good things to drink.
So we need lots more help on that one.
Yes.
Now also in welcoming and hospitality, we have all kinds of plans. We're inviting the school children to decorate large boxes that will be used for trash receptacles around the square.
Yes, they're the size that we're using are like appliance boxes, something in that order. And then the fun part is the children get a chance to decorate all of these. Each class, elementary class, will have a chance to decorate the boxes. And there is a $250 prize for the best decorated box.
And that comes from the Des Moines Register.
Yes.
So when we get all the Fairfield boxes, we'll have a committee judge these, and then the winning entry will be carted off in a RAGBRAI truck or a Des Moines Register truck
Yes.
to the final location and
Along with all the other overnight towns.
and be judged for the $250
Yes.
prize. So I hope Fairfield wins.
I do too.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful. The other thing that we're doing is our banners that we're going to try and promote. You should talk about that because that's kind of your...
Well, the banners, we came up with an idea also for the school children and people to get involved with. We're going to provide material, and then the banners will be created by the school children, and we'll actually hang these uptown and around, like the banners that you see.
like pole banners.
Pole banners.
Yes, that you see normally around town that have been commercially made, but these are going to be welcoming RAGBRAI from our young people, and we're excited about
Yes.
that.
Yes.
So,
We would like to see the children really be a part of this. And I think it's amazing the creativity that they have. It's just phenomenal, the ideas that they have. And
Jim-
for them to see their own creation up on the pole is pretty
Yes.
exciting.
Yes.
Jim Green was talking the other day at our meeting about how they have gotten young people to come to bring across ideas that have been really important. One was that they give donor cards, organ donor cards, to the people that don't wear helmets.
Oh,
And
that's a clever
that was
one.
the idea of like a fifth grader. So you
Yeah.
really do get that creative juices from the young people.
Yes.
There's such a part of our community that sometimes we forget how much that they can be helping with a big event like this.
Definitely.
So we're looking forward to tapping that creativity.
Yes. The other thing that we're doing too are we're doing 40 other street banners that are not street banners but pole banners along with Susan's, and they will also say welcome Fairfield, and there are 20 of those, and then there are also 20 of the Bike Fest that is going to be again in October that Linda Narducci does from Chapel Studio. So we'd like to kind of promote our own bike fest along with the one that we will have for RAGBRAI, and let them know, the riders know, that we also have a nice bike fest ourselves.
Good idea.
The other thing that we're doing is we're contacting a lot of the organizations like the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, to help us also, for instance, the day after, to help pick up trash, to any
Install
fundraiser. That's
signs.
Right. Yes, because we're going to need lots of good help the day of RAGBRAI, you know, prior to the riders coming into town.
And the day after, just to get the town back to normal.
That's right.
Another big thing that you have working on your committee,
Yes.
Debbie, is the design a t-shirt.
We're really excited about this. This is another activity that we are taking promotion to the children at the middle school and the elementary schools and the high school. And it's
And the general public.
Yes, and the general public, and it's a contest that we're asking people to come up with a design for the t-shirts. They are not to use the word RAGBRAI, but any great ideas that they can come up with. You can also get your entry forms from the Chamber of Commerce, and we would like those turned back into the Chamber on May 5th. I know that's kind of short notice, but we'd like to kind of get our t-shirts designed and out for selling.
And have people out wearing them.
Yes, yes.
Yes, it'd be wonderful if everybody in the community had one. Wouldn't
Oh,
it
it
be
would be.
great? What a show of support.
The winner gets a free t-shirt.
Great.
Even though that we have the little logo that we're using, that wasn't designed for the t-shirt, so we want someone else to design that.
When we went to Des Moines, they had done a afghan or a quilt of all of the t-shirts that were used last year, and it was in the design of the state of Iowa, and it was up on this wall. It was very impressive. So it was kind of fun to
Very
see all the
nice.
t-shirts that were done last year, along with RAGBRAI also designs their own t-shirts, and that's one of the reasons that they don't want the towns to use the word RAGBRAI. It's kind of their own copyright, and they reserve that privilege. But we're really excited about our t-shirt contest, and we're hoping for a lot of enthusiasm, and I'd like to see a lot of people come up with some great ideas. I'm sure there's some wonderful...
Maybe we can have the winner on FPAC and
That
tell
would be
them it's
great.
designed.
That would be great.
Yeah. Let's see, the other things that we're doing is along decorating, we're going to try and decorate the windows along in the square like we do for homecoming. I have Mark Schaefer kind of in charge of having that done and overseeing that, and having the high school kids that did the windows for homecoming. They took a side, each age, or I mean grade, took one corner or one side of the square, like the north, and they designed their own windows. So I'm hoping to kind of get that rolling too. They're doing, also what we're going to do is light up the lights that edge the tops of the buildings
white
in
lights.
white. We'd like to have that. And I've also contacted, I don't know if anyone saw Prom, the premiere Friday night. There was a gentleman from Cedar Rapids that came down, and he has Sky Search Incorporated, and he is going to come down with a spotlight. Well, it's not really a spotlight, it is a huge beacon, and it creates 800 million candlelight power. It's just phenomenal. If you've ever seen this thing.
Where will this be uptown?
We're trying to set it up either on Court Street or on the square. Now, he was on the square Friday night, right on the sidewalk, and he has his own generator. It is 4 feet wide, this beam of light, and it goes 75 miles up in the air. So it's really something to see, and I'm sure people have seen that sort of thing, but we think we're pretty excited about having him in Fairfield that evening.
That's another thing about showing our motto or our theme is showing Fairfield's pride in the ride, and we want to do everything we can to make it special for them. That our last night on the ride in the 25th year.
Yes.
It's going to be lots of fun.
Yes, it really is.
You also have a balloon archway.
We're planning on doing 2 archways, and tentatively we're going to construct those at the middle school and have those in the entryways at the across the streets as you come into the middle school. I've talked to Kathy out at Oakwood Nursery and several. She's given me a lot of at least some ideas as to how to construct those, because it's quite an undertaking. So I could use some good help the day of RAGBRAI that morning.
You're gonna be spread pretty thin.
I don't know how I'm going to do it, but it'll all come together, I'm sure.
So you're good at blowing balloons up.
Yes. We need lots of fingers tying balloons that day. And I'm hoping for nice weather, of course, because we want to have these up. We don't want them.
I've ordered it.
Yes, definitely. We don't have to worry about it.
And not too hot.
Right.
Another big thing that I know your husband's been working on.
Oh, yes. Charles Voorhees and Carlson Construction are building a 15-foot high giant bicycle that is going to either be placed probably at the middle school as just a unique piece of art and used as maybe a backdrop if people want to have their picture taken in front of it. And that's kind of their brainstorm, and I'm not even getting involved in that. But
now, I know that lots of people have these really fun, good ideas.
Yes.
And that is great.
Yes.
But one thing to remember is to channel some of these great, wonderful ideas through the chamber.
Yes, please.
Because someone else might be doing that great, wonderful idea in the
That's exactly right.
spot you thought you were going to, and it's already taken.
That's exactly right. So we take all those kind of inquiries, requests, all those kinds of things through the chamber, and then the chamber office can filter them to whatever committee. I mean, somebody's got a great idea how to construct these arches out of balloons and are willing to help, and they just need to call the chamber, leave a message for Deb as to what it's regarding. And
this is a system we've worked out to keep ourselves organized and from duplicating.
And it seems to be working pretty well.
It really does.
I think so. It's working great.
It really does. The other things that we're doing are we've got a hospitality committee, which also, what that entails is people that will be ambassadors for that day, to let people know that we're here to let them, help them find their way around, and we will have a tabloid, of course, and a map, and I will try and have people stationed throughout Fairfield and down at the command center at the middle school to help people, just directing them and letting them know that we're here to welcome them to Fairfield, and I know that that'll be a lot of fun in itself. Just meeting people and listening to their stories that they have to tell about their experiences on the route. I think that's...
And people from other towns have said you'll meet a friend for life.
Yes, I think that's very true.
Many people are still, after, that have met people from 20-some years ago, are still in contact with each other, visit each other. A story that Jim Green told was about a gentleman that was from northern Iowa. He had some writers stay at his home. One of the writers happened to be a young doctor from Arizona, and so a few years later he and his wife were in Arizona for the winter, and he started having health problems. He picked up the phone, called this young doctor that they'd kept in contact with, letters back and forth, called him, told him what kind of symptoms he was having, and this young gentleman scheduled for him to go see one of the best doctors in that town, flew in even from where he lived in Arizona and met at the hospital. and helped arrange for him some, medical treatment.
And you hear so many stories
so
like that
many.
over and over
Yes.
again.
Yes, the kind that bring
Wonderful
goosebumps.
friendships that are created
Yes.
and continue on.
And many towns talk about businesses that have started up from somebody coming through their town and seeing a need or maybe an empty storefront or something like that and thinking, isn't this a wonderful town? And then start looking into that possibility, and they've attracted businesses that way too.
That's right.
I know many of the manufacturers here in town, if they're getting the word out of some of the items that they have available, that things that they make, then may draw in some more business.
That's true. Also, Josie Rauscher has kind of come up with a really neat idea. We'd like to create some posters that we can put around the square in the merchant stores, and it'll be just for that day. She's a graphic designer from Chapel Studio, and she's got some wonderful ideas along those lines. And so we'd like to create a poster. I think it's about a 3-foot by 2.5 foot in size, and it'll be primarily the colors that RAGBRAI is using this year, and it'll say welcome Fairfield, welcome to Fairfield, and it's just another thing to kind of incorporate in with all the other ideas that we've got. We have Susan and I, of course, have our monthly meetings. We try and make it to each of our own meetings because our committees do overlap.
Right.
And so we want to keep on top of each other's projects.
Right. And I have to help her, and she has to help me.
And you're both doing a wonderful job.
Something else I should mention about the Publicity Committee is that includes KMCD and the Fairfield Ledger. And the Fairfield Ledger will be putting together a tabloid.
Correct.
They will be selling advertising, listing, everything that's going to be going on that day. And then this tabloid will be taken to the town that's right on the right before us, which is Bloomfield. They'll be taking the tabloid the day before so that the readers that night, when they're laying on their bed or
Exhausted.
in their sleeping bag with a flashlight, can read these tabloids and see where they want to go in Fairfield and where they want to eat and what they want to do. And
that might spur them to get up earlier and come into Fairfield a little earlier than normal.
I think the writers tend to like to get organized the night before as to what town they're coming into
yes.
the next day.
These tabloids will be given out there. They'll also be given out in Fairfield.
Right.
And
I believe they'll be out with the Ledger too. I think everybody that's a Ledger subscriber will get one
we'll
also.
all know what's going on. And I'm sure if you want to be involved in this portion of it,
yes,
call the Ledger.
Yes, anybody that has, restaurants in town will want to definitely advertise as to what your specialties are. Businesses will want to advertise if, car washes and things like that. There'll be a lot of vehicles and campers and any kind of business that you think you want to draw the riders to you. You'll definitely want to get in the tabloid.
That's something also, another Jim Green story he told the other morning.
Yes.
Is that he actually heard of one couple that were on RAGBRAI, and they drove in, and when they left that town, they had purchased a bedroom set and had it shipped.
Great.
So I guess that proves to me that you just never know what people are going to buy. So get excited and take part.
Yes, the merchants downtown are the progressive merchants that I work with are really getting excited, and we're working together on some of the things that they want to do to draw people into their store. Some of the restaurants, I talked to a few restaurant owners that remember when RAGBRAI came through town. One individual says, I have not had sales that high since I think it was in 88 when they came through again, so he is very excited. And he said, matter of fact, his comment was, and you're not taking any of my help for anything else because I want them all here. We've heard about towns that are small towns that they go through and the grocery shelves are just emptied when they leave.
I'm sure there are certain things that people are really after, not something to eat and something to drink.
Lots of lemonade and cold iced tea.
Yes. And a lot of the writers are very health conscious too, so they'll be thinking about things like that. Not, of course, all of them, but many of them are.
And that goes with the thing that I heard about they don't buy very much pop.
Right.
Not that the pop sales won't do well, because we have to also consider all the people from the surrounding communities that will just come in for the entertainment. And many people go to towns along the RAGBRAI route just to meet the riders and see all the excitement and things like that. So I think anything and everything will sell.
Yes.
Another thing I'd like to promote too is the merchants on the square. It'd be fun to have everyone decorate the insides of their windows, for instance. Anything from bike memorabilia. I know Terry Klein is going to set up in Hutch's Sporting Good some of his patches that he has gotten from years past, and
Something
a display in
about,
itself.
Bill LaRue's bicycle.
Yes.
In
That's
fact,
really something.
Terry has Bill LaRue's bicycle, and it will be on display in the window at Hutch's.
That would be good.
So that'll be, and I think it would be fun, and I'm sure the merchants are also thinking along those lines, like what can they do to kind of make this a festive day in their own unique way.
Another promotion is to give anybody with a RAGBRAI t-shirt a discount. Many towns, merchants do that, anybody. And another thing with doing that, if you gave a discount for anybody wearing a Fairfield RAGBRAI t-shirt, you're re-promoting
That's
your
true.
business with the Fairfield, or Jefferson County, I should say, people. And so that's another idea that has been tossed around
And if
throughout
anyone
RAGBRAI.
else has suggestions along those lines, we'd love to hear
Yes.
about them.
Yes.
Yes, call the chamber.
Yes.
Something else that we need to talk about, and that is this show is going to air Friday the 25th, and on May 1st, which is a Thursday,
Right.
there's a very important meeting.
Yes.
And that is for all people, organizations that intend to be food vendors.
Correct. Anybody that's going to sell food that they do not normally sell in their place of business. All churches, anyone wanting to set up in their front yard or uptown on the square will need to come to this meeting. It's May 1st at 7:30 in the evening at the Jefferson County Hospital. It's in the basement conference room. And with you, you'll need to bring some paperwork. We'd like you to bring your menu, or at least a rough idea of what all you will be serving. Tax papers and things like that, you'll be needing to have your tax numbers and permits. And if you do not have these items, because you're only going to be a food vendor for July 25th for RAGBRAI, then please do still come. We have all the paperwork, and really it's going to be a very informative meeting in that the health inspector will be there. She will go over all the details needed for health inspection. We'll have paperwork there to get you a permit for that day. And the City of Fairfield passed an ordinance. And what this ordinance says is that anybody that wants to sell beverages, alcoholic beverages, or food that are not normally licensed for this kind of business must go through the RAGBRAI committee to do so on July 25th and 26th. And this was really promoted. Every town in Iowa has done it for several years now. And what it does, it helps promote these items through RAGBRAI. And the RAGBRAI committee will help you set your prices so that you don't get too high or too low, that everybody stays pretty consistent. It also helps set what food items. They tell about one town several years ago, practically everybody serves spaghetti, you know. And I mean, here's these writers, and all they can get in this town pretty much is spaghetti, you know. And so, yes, so poor guy that didn't like spaghetti, you know. So we want to work with things like that so that we can, you know what people are going to serve and have a variety
Real
of items.
diversity of things.
And another thing with the writers is they may grab a hot dog or a brat for lunch, or as Terry Klein says, we eat 24 hours a day. You know, so anytime during the day they may, but for dinner time, which is what Fairfield will be focusing on as the evening meal, they want a real meal. They want to go someplace like a school or a church or someplace where they can sit down and get a plate dinner and just kind of relax and meet the other people that they're sitting with. And so this meeting will be very good for anybody that is even interested. I mean, maybe you haven't even made up your mind yet for sure, but come to the meeting on May 1st at 7:30, and we'll get you some information
I'm
so you
sure
can make a
Kristen
decision.
Bandy, chairman, has all the information
Yes,
in this book.
she does.
All the helpful hints, all the do's and don'ts that
Yes.
have been learned, tried
From other
and tested.
towns, exactly.
We'd
Yeah.
like to really see a lot of the churches involved in this, because the writers
It's one-
love to eat
Yes.
at the church
And also vendors downtown, because like Terry Klein says, we eat 24 hours a day.
Burning a lot of calories.
Yes, that's exactly right. He said it's nothing to eat at 6 o'clock and have a full plate dinner, and hey, you're on the town square at the street dance, and you're going to pick up something and eat it again, you know. So vendors uptown. Plus, I think about all the people coming from the other communities, and they too will want a drink and a snack and, you know, sandwich or something like that. So food vendors, I think, will do very well. They have in other towns in the past, as long as they, the key point to it is to set how many meals you can comfortably serve and stay with that number. Because Jim Green from the Register explained that when people start getting, he called it greedy, and thinking that we can serve 500 people because we can seat 150 and we're going to serve from, say, 5 o'clock to 8:30. And then suddenly, a week before, they decide they're going to sell an extra 200. That's when they really get into trouble. So all those kinds of items will be covered on May 1st.
I'm sure they'll tell when is the prime time
Yes.
that people will be coming
Definitely.
into town,
Yeah.
when they'll be hungry,
Right.
what things to expect. So this is a very important meeting that everyone that's planning to sell any food or beverage
Right.
should attend.
Right. We also want to be organizing the shuttle routes, because if you're a church, you're going to want that shuttle bus to stop, you know, at your
Yes.
church, pick up people that have already eaten and let off some more. And so there'll be that kind of communication too that we'll need at the meeting as to who is signed up and registered, and also things like electricity and those kinds of things too. So Kristen has a form already, and she's got packet information, and like I said, the food inspector will be there to answer questions. The ledger will be there with information on advertising, and it'll be good.
It
Sounds
seems
great.
very organized.
I think we're all so organized that we just can't believe it.
It's scary.
All of the 18 or 19
Yes.
people,
Yes.
three co-chairs and all these meetings, and we're just organized, and this is going to be a really positive fun
Yes,
event.
it is.
And we want to get as many people. You know, Fairfield is one of the smaller communities that's on the route, so if we can, you know, really get people to join in the effort to come out and make this a fun day and a fun evening, we'd really like to get as many people as we can involved.
And I think something that a lot of people don't understand is that you don't have to volunteer for the entire day. Most of our committees are setting up 2-hour increments. So you could work 2 hours here, 2 hours there, or just 2 hours in one place and enjoy the rest of the day.
And if someone wanted to like help prior to the day and help,
Exactly.
you know,
If
with
you're not going to be here, you can
Yes,
still help.
That's
there's
right.
things like you guys with the signs could be
I have
a
several
great
people
win.
on my committee that are riding in the ride like the day before, and yet they're helping me on my committee prior to the
That's
day of the
wonderful.
ride.
That's wonderful. And I've heard of a few people that have to be gone that Friday, and they said, I'll be out Saturday morning to do whatever I need to. So that's great too. I encourage also all employers. It is a really big day, and we need probably 500 at least volunteers. So I encourage all employers to, if somebody does ask, can I have the day off so I can help with RAGBRAI, to work with them, maybe give them a few hours if they can't afford to do it the whole day, because that's really important. It's a Friday, and most of us work on Fridays.
Right.
And of course, if we can have everybody in those T-shirts,
Yes.
that's important too.
Yeah.
Think positive and think fun, and it'll be a good thing.
And I think Deb found out from her trip to Des Moines how much fun every town had. They said
It was
lots
incredible.
of work beforehand, but a wonderful time.
Yes. And that was the comment that, sure, it's a lot of work, but it's well worth it. And it's a fun event. And it's a nice way to show off your community.
And that's what we're going to do. And we're going to help you by having weekly shows on FPAC Channel 9. So be sure and tune in again. We have a really nice banner. Now this came from Des Moines.
Yes.
From the RAGBRAI committee in Des Moines.
Yes,
Des Moines
this is
Register.
their banner for this year.
The colors are great.
And of course, it's the 25th on the 25th
In Fairfield.
in Fairfield.
So be sure and watch Fairfield Public Access Channel 9 every Friday for another RAGBRAI update. Thanks.